We are live.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners meeting for September 18th. And we'll start off the meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Chang Karali, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Do we have a roll call, please?
President Mateusz,
Present.
Commissioner Slater Carter, Commissioner Chang Karali,
Present.
Commissioner Domerat,
Present.
Commissioner Zemke.
Here. All right, so this item C on our agenda is public comment. And we do have a presenter in the room, Sue Pemberton.
Sue Pemberton, I'm with the California Chemical Sciences as their marine mammal stranding coordinator. We're part of the marine mammal stranding network. Our primary responsibility in our community is to respond to dead marine mammals. But because I have 18 plus years in live marine mammal response, we decided to send me down to babysit this whale inside the harbor for the 10 days that it was here. So as you guys probably know, on September 5th, we were made aware of a live whale inside the inner harbor. So in discussions with the Marine Mammal Center, we talked about monitoring this whale, getting a baseline assessment of its behavior to try and figure out if it was in distress and reporting up our chain to NOAA about baseline behaviors that would trigger a secondary response of trying to haze the animal out of the harbor. Luckily, we never got to that place because the animal appeared to be comfortable. There was plenty of bait fish in the harbor for it to eat. As the time went on, it got a little more comfortable in its behaviors and was exhibiting foraging behavior and play behavior. This was a young humpback. And I was very pleased to get a call from Carrie Smith on Sunday morning that the whale had left the harbor on its own, saving us all the drama of trying to explain how we were going to deal with this large animal. But I wanted to come forward and thank the harbor office for offering up their assistance to us. It's not always easy. There's a lot of emotions that run in the public. I did my best to soothe everybody's anxieties on social media. I probably spent more time on Nextdoor than I did doing my actual regular job. But I live here in this community. I've been on this coastline my whole life. And so I felt it was important to be a responsible part of our community and try to give as much information as we can, truthful information. There's no shortage of ideas for what we should have been doing. So I just wanted to really give a shout out to the guys, Dante and especially Carrie, who delivered the great news that the animal had left. And the keen, I don't know which deputy it was that was checking on it on the overnight watch, but had noted that it didn't hear the blows late Saturday. So we think it left sometime overnight on Saturday. So we're hoping it's going to have a happy life. We're trying to get clear photos of the underside of the tail flukes that can be registered with Happy Whale, which is an app or an organization that tracks whales throughout their lifetime based on ID images of their tail flukes. So we could potentially know about this whale for its entire life based on the fact that it likely is from the California-Mexico group and it will come back here every year. So that's it. I was going to come before you and see if you guys had any questions or suggestions or want to shoot arrows at me. I don't know.
I appreciated the way you communicated, not only with the district, but also on Nextdoor. That was very good. I did see a few of those. And we did hear many different variations of perils of Pilar the whale.
They can be very dangerous. And that was a point that it was pretty difficult for me to get across
Right.
to folks. I was out there every day for varying degrees of time because I have a job and a life. So I wanted to,
Real life.
I wanted to make sure that people understood that if they were going to transit that area, we weren't trying to block off anything, but if they were going to transit that area, to please hug the dock and move completely through. But I did see multiple times on Nextdoor that people were going out and paddling or kayaking over the top of the whale. And later on in its stay, there were videos of the whale doing tail throws and tail slaps, which are normal whale behaviors. The slaps can mean a number of different things from anger to joy. So the most important thing to note about that is that a slap like that has killed people around the world, and it could have devastated one of these paddlers. And not getting people to understand that was very disappointing. There was also one vessel that was disappointing that I'm happy to talk off record with somebody about to address that situation. I don't want to put them on blast here because I'm not looking to cancel anybody. But I think overall, about 80% of the community, with the support of Cal Academy and the Marine Mammal Center, who came in a few days later to really speak with the folks that were lined up on the road there. I think it was successful considering it was a little feral. You know, it was something that really wasn't in our control. And we had to do very little other than manage people's emotions and a little bit of their movements. It's still a little fresh, so I don't know what I would change going forward, but I'm happy to have a Monday morning quarterback meeting with folks if we want to talk a little bit about what we can do going forward. Given that this is a protected species, not only is it protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act, it has a second layer of protection with the Endangered Species Act. So there's not a lot we can do for its own protection, like hazing it would be a very big decision. Like I said, thankfully, we didn't have to get to that point. But, you know, if you have any suggestions or want to have a lunchtime meeting about what we could do different next time or not, then that would be great.
Chair Zemke.
Oh,
Uh,
no,
Bill
no,
Moran.
go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm Mr. Zemke.
No, go ahead.
I've seen the hands go up all over.
Well, thank you for all your services. I mean, as we look at the future going forward, one of the efforts we're embarking on now, it'll take us a while, but we're looking at, building a marine science research and education facility here at the harbor. And if you'll notice on that board, the marine mammals are there and NOAA's there as part of our federal thing that we mean to communicate with, talk to. I was always kind of frustrated where I would see, seals, and then the marine people from Marin Headlands would have to drive all the way down. So well, why don't we have a facility here that could handle the San Mateo, Santa Cruz Coast County line, that area, at least, So these are the kinds of things we're planning. We're building this now. And certainly want to have those discussions with you and with the whole community as to what we can do in terms of educating the public in the future and for some research.
I would highly recommend contacting the Noyo Center for Marine Science up in Fort Bragg. They are one of our permit partners. They help expand our response to dead marine mammals up through Middle Mendocino, but they have an amazing marine science center. They have 3 places.
Oh, yeah, that's a,
Fort Bragg.
yeah, for.
They have 3 places actually in their community. They just put one in their harbor. So a science outreach and research center right there in the harbor. So if you want to be connected with them, I'm happy to connect you with them. Great guidance for them.
Mr. Chang Crawley.
So Sue, thank you so much. Because I was on these Facebook, social media posts too, and people had reached out and, you're right, managing the emotions was probably the hardest thing. It's like, oh, it's distressed. I'm like, no, it's not distressed. Oh, is the water shallow or deep enough? I'm like, for the whale, it's deep enough. I mean, what do you say, right? But I think that your calming voice was so helpful. And I know that like Jim, you'd been communicating with the harbor patrol, our crew. Jim was getting all of that. So whenever I was hearing something from, members of the public or constituents, I was going to Jim, who was relying on all of this other information as well. So I just wanted to thank you for your calmness and just very objective, way of approaching things, because you're right. I mean, it was a very, very emotional time, which I guess, how do you, we did what we could do, but let's say that another whale comes back. I mean, this was one smart whale. It had its fill of food, and was it a boy or girl? Because
We don't know.
so someone said, oh, it's a girl. I'm like, I don't think anyone knows.
You have to look at the underside of it.
Yeah.
Did not share that with.
Yeah,
us.
so, well, anyway, so when if another one comes in, like, let's say, or something, right? Like, what do you think we could do better? I guess, and that's not a question for today, it's something that I think we should think about, as a community.
Yeah.
Because you can, God, we even got this nasty email from someone like, you don't care, the Harbor District doesn't care, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, I guess that's why we're here, right? To get all this information. But at the same time, it's like, you're not in the position to be that judge too, right? And so I guess as we move forward, because there might be some other spectacular thing that happens in the Inner Harbor. Do y'all have training for stuff like that in terms of managing the emotions, as you put it, of the community? Because we should probably be aware of that kind of training as well.
There are, I don't know that there's an official training. You'll have folks like me who have 30+ years of
Right.
experience in marine mammals. And when I was a rescue volunteer here in this community, nothing makes somebody more anxious than an animal that's in actual peril,
Distress,
which is a sick animal. So you kind of learn about it. I have to say, I wasn't always on my A game. I've been short, and I was even short with folks on next door. Like that's
Right.
It wasn't as
That's
finesse.
why I couldn't respond. I
Right.
responded once.
I know my
Your lane.
my lane, and I try to draw people to it. One thing that was really cool about this, if anything about it was cool, was that it gave an opportunity to build stewardship. It gave people an opportunity to see a whale up close that was not in distress, that was not on a beach, that was not sick.
Natural habitat, if you will, but.
Kinda. Well, if we hadn't built a harbor in the middle of his habitat, then yeah, but it was in the water. It was in water deep enough. It had plenty of food. And gratefully, the humpbacks are around till about October, November. So the fact that this animal could get back out and possibly find its group. If not, then we had an experience with the whale that had died here by the Ritz-Carlton 2 years ago, and she had been seen a couple months prior with her own calf. That was probably around this size, if not a little bit smaller. And there were grave concerns about what had happened to that whale. But we never knew because there wasn't a second whale
Oh
that
my
washed
God,
up.
enough about the whale.
And then this last or 2 summers ago, the animal, her name is Aria, showed up in Monterey Bay. So even without her mother, she moved forward and found a group and traveled back to Mexico and back up this way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
With more about the whale. We're looking at this board, redesigning the breakwater. We're making outreach to the federal agencies and so on. And I'd love to stay in touch with you about maybe figuring out how to redesign the breakwater. So the critters have, clearly, if you look at the seals and those, it's like a revolving door for them. They have no problem with it.
Right.
But for some of the larger creatures who may enter our harbor, I think number one, having the science center and
Education.
we can start the education, but also I think if we're talking to the federal government about it redesigning the breakwater, we need to be looking at protecting the fishermen, but also accommodating the wild species that are here,
Mhm.
the native species. So hopefully we can talk to Noyo and figure out how to do that. I think it's a perfect reason in and of itself to redesign a breakwater that was designed in the 1960s when it was the Army Corps of Engineer.
Yeah.
Not caring much about what the breakwater did to either the shoreline or the critters. So,
Yeah.
but I want to thank you, and I think your calm voice and your expertise and your credentials helped the 80% who wanted to get along understand the marvelous beauty they were able to watch at that point in time. And then there are others who don't care much. And there, in that 20% you mentioned, there's a fair number that just want to cause trouble.
Or just have the experience they want without regard to how it would affect the animal and the danger that they put themselves in. But I can't stop people. We weren't there as an enforcement arm.
I'd like to thank everybody here. We're going to move on with our meeting now.
All right, thank you.
Let's do lunch. Let's figure it out. You and George and I.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here with item D on our agenda, commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments?
I have no comments.
Okay, Commissioner Zemke.
I have nothing to report. So,
Oh, I thought you said.
no, I have no comments.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
no, sorry. No, I'll pass on.
Commissioner Domerat.
I have a quick comment. General Manager Pruitt and I were at the CMAQ meeting. That's the California Marine and Navigation Affairs Conference. That group is a group of almost, I'd say 99.9% of all the ports and harbors in the state of California. And they are an important lobbying arm for all the ports and harbors to go forward and get funding for all the different things we need to do. So it was a great meeting. One of the interesting items that came out, again, to California's credit, is that there's very few, if any, other organizations in the country like CMAQ. If you grow up in the East Coast and you look at New Jersey and New York and all these other states, they're at each other's throats for funding. And they're always competing. They're always, they used to say the king of New York and the queen of New Jersey would be fighting together to get money for those joint kind of harbors. California doesn't do that. This group has been around for a long time, and we work together very closely and with the Corps and over the years to try to get the funding that California needs for its harbors. So it was a great meeting. We can write up some of the individual things. I think Jim got some good ideas about potential funding for some of the infrastructure we have with MARAD and stuff like that. So I don't know, Jim, did you want to, any further comment?
One other point of interest is the executive director of CMAQ is a former deputy harbor master here at Pillar Point Harbor. So
He's very familiar.
there's strong connections with Pillar
Jim
Point in
Nelson.
this group. So they're able to meet with the Army Corps, sit down and talk with them about both our current projects with Princeton Shoreline and with the overall Pillar Point sea level rise project that's in WRDA 2024. So, and they still expect that to WRDA 2024 is still expected to pass by the end of the year.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Yes, so I know that Jim sent an email out to us and that LAFCO MSR was supposed to be happening. And it's because of short staff and just a lot of other things that were happening within San Mateo LAFCO. The LAFCO report is going to be continued until, to November 20th. So it's not going to be at today's meeting. But, Jim's been very helpful with LAFCO and getting the information. So the delay is because of just resource and timing and the ability to do any analytic work in terms of time, not quality. They want to make sure they're doing it right. Also, Jim, thank you again for informing us about the $2.9 million grant, which I think is fantastic. So I'm sure you'll be talking about that a little bit. I wanted to thank you and our staff for the great work for getting that done, which is great. And also with regard to Pillar the Whale, I know people are probably going to be rolling their eyes, but we were looking and talking about this from the spectator point of view. But there were two tenants, I think that were very happy that the whale came in, which is Ocean Ciders and Half Moon Bay Kayak, because they were like right there. And I just wanted to give a little shout out to them because they enhanced the visitor experience. It benefited them, it benefited our community. And it kind of kept people, at bay from actually interfering. I don't know about Half Moon Bay Kayak. I think they were trying to counsel people to be careful when they were renting out kayaks. But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to them as well. I'm glad that things worked out for everyone, including Pillar the Whale.
All right. Any other commissioner comments? All right, moving on to activity reports. General Manager Pruitt.
Good morning, Commissioners. As Commissioner Chiancarelli mentioned, we did on the 10th of September, the Ocean Protection Council did meet and vote and approved our $2.9 million grant to go towards the Surfers Beach replenishment project. So that's fantastic news. It covers a significant portion of the construction costs that we would have otherwise had to use our operational funds to cover. So we're happy with that one. With respect to the whale, a shout out to the Half Moon Bay Kayak Company. They did do a remarkable job at educating their kayakers and advising them to hug either the breakwater or the docks. And it's important to realize that all kayakers in the harbor are not clients of Half Moon Bay Kayak. A lot of personal kayaks were out there also. But they did do a good job of educating all their clients to stay clear of the whale. So I appreciated that. When I went down to talk with them, they already notified me that the harbor masters have already been down there and asked them to do that. So I was happy to see that. And then we did attend the CMAC, which was a fantastic opportunity, again, to actually sit down and talk with the Army Corps staff that are working on our projects to move them along. So it was just another point and another opportunity for us to encourage the Corps to continue to move forward and hopefully speed up some of their responses to the coastal erosion we're facing here on the coast side.
The conference was in Santa Cruz or Morro Bay? CMAC.
Santa Cruz.
Okay.
The next conference is actually up on the hill in DC
Yeah.
in the new year. We also met with Commissioner Mateusz and I and Commissioner Domerat met with San Mateo County Planning and with Supervisor Ray Mueller to talk about search and rescue funding. And Supervisor Mueller was very, very supportive of the district in seeking out additional funding, either through, mainly through the Public Safety Fund and the Sheriff's Office. And he said he would support us with that. And currently, right now, I'm working on scheduling a meeting with the Sheriff's Office to discuss that with her. And she got back to me, and we're now working on calendars.
Great.
Beyond that, everything else is I submitted in my report a little late, but it's in my report that should be in your packages.
Director of Operations, run report.
The Silver Point Harbor is hovering around 87%. Obviously, we already discussed the whale challenge significantly, but I would like to just mention that our staff, led by Harbor Master Chris Tibby and Assistant Harbor Master Dante Madrigal, did an excellent job making notifications, getting assistance from professionals to advise us on how best to react. And then all of our staff did an excellent job in education and trying to encourage people to stay away from the whale and leave it alone until it eventually left Saturday evening on. So short of that, everything is going very good at Pillar Point Harbor, and likewise at Oyster Point, hovering around 72% in occupancy. Staff at both facilities are continuing to do upgrades and to the docks to keep them in good shape. Significant upgrades at Oyster Point Marina, led largely by the harbor master James Smith and the assistant harbor master Jacob Walding, replacing floats and keeping the improving actually on the docks significantly, which is a lot of hard physical labor, as you see in the staff report, actually getting in the water and safely reinstalling flotation to the docks that are aged. The process, we're moving toward total replacement, but until then, they're keeping them in excellent shape. And I would like to also mention that Evan Pemberton, Deputy Harbor Master Evan Pemberton, Zach Pringle, and Cole Miller received commendation letters from actually 2 incidents where our staff at Oyster Point responded to emergency situations and assisted people in distress. Everybody's doing an excellent job at both harbors.
If Pillar Point is at 87%, do we still have a waiting list, or we've done away with the waiting list, or?
We've got a waiting list for specific size slips, and yeah, as we get slips available, we are notifying people on those lists when those slips become available. But it does take time sometimes for people to make decisions and respond, and then we have to also give people that don't respond immediately up to 30 days to because they've been on the list potentially for years, decades sometimes, and then we go to the next person down the list. So Harbor Master Tibby is working to fill all slips.
Yeah, somebody was asking me how that process was coming, and I'm glad. Thank you for the update. Okay, Administration and Finance Director Van Hoff.
President Matoush, good morning, commissioners. Right now, our staff is working hard to get our year-end closed, our fiscal year-end closed. The auditors are coming at the end of this month. We're also working on putting together our first open enrollment presentation that will be going out to Pillar Point Harbor, Oyster Point Marina, and presenting what benefits the district provides to the employees. And so looking forward to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're on to our agenda items F. I'm going to request to pull item F4, F7, and G6 and have them be brought back at another meeting.
I'm sorry, which one? F4?
F4, F7, and G6. So somebody want to second that?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Matoush,
Aye.
Mr. Slater Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Mr. Damrat, Mr. Zemke.
Aye.
All right, for the consent calendar for items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yeah, I want to thank staff and Jim for putting in the Pillar Point RV Park CDP update.
Yeah.
I think it's important that this board had requested that we have regular reports. And it's important that we see them. And also I want to tell the public that these reports are here because there have been very many people in the public who have been upset about that RV park for 25 years. So we are getting the information out and it's there for you to read and just to read and follow the progress then. But thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Jane Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat, Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
President Mathush.
Aye. Okay, moving on to G on our agenda, item 1, San Mateo County Harbor District's CalPERS actuarial reports, and they'll be led by Director of Finance Van Hoff.
Yes, the Harbor Commissioners requested additional information regarding the district's retirement liabilities. The actuarial valuation reports were issued last month, and today we have Julian Robinson from the CalPERS actuarial staff here online who will be providing a presentation.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me fine. I'm happy to be here and discuss your actual reports. I've been an actuary at CalPERS for over 12 years now, and
Speak up a little
I've been dealing with
on his end.
yeah.
Julian, we're having trouble hearing you.
You're having trouble hearing me? Okay, I'll try and speak a little bit louder. And been working on San Mateo's, many of the public agencies which have pension plans in San Mateo. Let me share my screen and we can go from there. There we go. All right, can you guys see the screen okay?
Yes.
All the way.
Great. Yeah. So, so today I'm going to give you a little bit of background about what's going on at CalPERS. I'm going to talk about the actual reports, hit some highlights of the membership, liabilities, contributions, and terminations, and briefly discuss our pension outlook tool, which may be of use to you guys for analyzing your pension liabilities and answer any questions. But actually, during the presentation, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt me and stop, and I can deal with the questions as we proceed. Yes, the County Harbor District is a beautiful place, and I wish I had the luck of the whale that you were just talking about and spending so much time enjoying it. But I've found some pictures which are very pleasing. All right, let's talk about some background issues for the pension plans at CalPERS. We have both pooled pension plans and non-pooled pension plans at CalPERS. The non-pooled pension plans, which you can see on the right side of the screen, are pension plans which have more than 100 active members. Your plans, you have two reports which we set out, are part of different pools, and that's because they have less than 100 active members. And we have two risk pools, a miscellaneous risk pool and a safety risk pool. Both of your plans are in the miscellaneous risk pool. The safety risk pools contain the plans for police and fire and similar kinds of employees. The pool plans, as we see, have separate normal costs, which means the separate ongoing costs for each of the different pension plans. And a part of the pooling process means that the gains and losses of the plans are shared across all of the plans in the pool. On this slide, you can see in the middle of the slide all of the different formulas which are in place in the miscellaneous pool. So you have two formulas. The 2 at 62, the one right in the middle of the screen, that's the PEPRA formula, and then your active members in the classic plan have a 2.5 at 55 formula. Okay, so let's look at some of the report highlights. We're doing this work. We get many questions from our public agencies about, how is the plan in good shape? What are the required contributions? Why have they changed from year to year? How can I manage my UAL, which stands for unfunded accrued liability? I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in a second. Information about PEPRA members, and also what other additional information is in the reports. So here are the cover pages of the two reports, which we recently sent out to you. It's slightly different format. Was there a question? Sorry.
Oh, please proceed.
Okay. So we've what's new in the reports is we've created this summary of key evaluation results, which capture a lot of the basic information which is contained in the reports, and we'll look at each of these different sections separately in our discussion. So this is the summary page for the miscellaneous plan, the classic plan, as we call it, and then this is a summary page for the PEPRA plan. So let's look at some of the plan membership as it is as of June 30, 2023. That's the most recent valuation, which we just finished. I know it sounds like it's more than a year ago, but if you remember that CalPERS has over 2 million members, and there's a lot of data that needs to get processed in order for us to put these reports together. That's why there's a delay in sending them out. So in the middle of the screen, we have a summary of the classic head count, and it's interesting to note the difference between the classic and the PEPRA. Along the top part of the page is looking at the active members. So as of June 30, 2023, in that second column, you had 7 active members in the classic plan. And on the far right, you can see you had 34 active PEPRA members. And this is not unusual these days, that since 2013, pretty much any new employee that you've hired went into the PEPRA plan. So that's why you have much higher number of PEPRA employees than you do classic employees. Now we have another 2 categories of employees called transferred members and separated members. Those members in those categories are no longer working for the Harbour District. The transferred members had worked for the Harbour District and are now working for some other plan or agency which is still covered by CalPERS. The separated members are folks who used to work for the Harbour District but are no longer working for an agency covered by CalPERS. And then the bottom of the screen shows the retired members and beneficiaries, as one would expect. Since the classic plan has been around for many decades, you've got a significant number of retirees, 50 retirees as of June 30, 2023. And the PEPRA plan had 1 retiree last valuation, but currently doesn't have any retirees. One last interesting point that I noticed on that I want to bring to your attention is that if you look back in the active members on the classic side, the entry age to the rate plan, which means essentially the age of hire into the plan, has changed quite a lot. It's the third line of the numbers there. So the classic plans, the average age at entry was 32. Under the PEPRA plan, it's 38.7. So it seems over the past number of years, the Harbour District seems to be hiring older folks as they when they start working for the Harbour District. Okay. Are there any questions, or should I move on?
Going, please.
Okay. If I'm speaking too quickly, please let me know. Okay, let's talk about the
Good to see it a
unfunded,
little bit.
the unfunded accrued liability, or brief UAL is often used. So this is a page showing the a comparison between the entry age accrued liability and the market value of assets. What this is a comparison of is the liabilities in the pension plan for all of the members that are active and retired and the other categories, and we do a comparison against the market value of assets which are in the plan to support those liabilities. So in the top half of the page, we're looking at the results for the classic plan. As of June 30, 2023, the total accrued liability is just over $21 million. You have close to $17 million worth of assets. So we have an unfunded accrued liability, the difference between the accrued liability and the assets of about $4.5 million. On the bottom half of the screen, it's similar numbers for the PEPRA plan. The accrued liability for the PEPRA plan is $3 million. The market value of assets is $2.7 million, which leaves an unfunded liability of about $400,000. And again, it's no surprise that the classic plan, the liabilities and the assets are much larger than the ones in the PEPRA plan. Looking at it graphically, I've tried to show it in a different way. On the left, you have the classic the classic accrued liabilities. The blue part of these bars represents the assets, and the orange is the unfunded accrued liability piece. And the PEPRA, you can see, is a much smaller column. And then I've shown a total of the assets and the liabilities for the two plans. And in general, it's probably a better way to think about these two plans combined when thinking about how to possibly improve the funded status of the plan. So if I go back to the previous slide quickly, so this funded ratio of the plan represents the assets divided by the liabilities. So for the classic plan, the funded ratio is 79%. For the PEPRA plan, it's 87.9%. Generally, from an actuarial point of view, where we want this to get to 100%. So that's the target that we expect to reach, and our policy is to pay down this unfunded accrued liability over future years. And it's on average, it's about 15 or 16 years for the pay down of this unfunded accrued liability. We're not requiring agencies to pay this off immediately. Funding of pension plans is a long-term endeavor, and we have an organized way of amortizing this unfunded accrued liability. So the contribution requirements. So there are two components to the contribution requirements for the pension plan. The two elements are these. Well, the first one is the normal cost rate, and then the second element is the unfunded accrued liability amortization payment. So the normal cost rate is expressed as a percentage of payroll, and that represents the amount that's paid regularly throughout the year for all your active members. It's essentially the value of the benefits which are accruing for your active members. And there's a different rate for the classic employees and a lower rate for the PEPRA employees, because the value of the benefits, the formula, is different for the two groups of employees. The unfunded accrued liability amortization payment is the pay down of the unfunded liability, which we just talked about a few minutes ago. And as you probably know, there's an option of either paying the unfunded accrued liability in July and paying off the whole thing in one shot, or paying the unfunded accrued liability on a monthly basis. Out of interest, do you take advantage of the July prepayment, or do you do it on a monthly basis?
We take advantage of the July prepayment.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do, and apparently about 80% of the agencies take advantage of that option. So for the classic plan, for the current fiscal year 2024-25, the employer normal cost rate is 13.4%, and you've already made the payment of about $330,000 for the UAL payment. Next year, it's expected to increase to about 400,000, and the member contribution rate is 8% for the classic members. For the PEPRA members, the employer normal cost rate for the current fiscal year is 7.87%, and will increase slightly to 7.96% next year. And you've already made the prepayment of $9,000 for this current fiscal year, and it's expected to increase to $20,000 next fiscal year. The member contribution rate for PEPRA members is 7.75%, and that is remaining stable for the next fiscal year, 7.75%. So here's a summary as a percentage of payroll of the normal cost rates. Again, you can see since the classic plan is the 2.5 at 55, it's a more valuable or a higher pension on retirement. The normal cost contribution rate is higher than for the PEPRA plan, which has a lower 2% at 62 formula. So the unfunded accrued liability amortization, this is a very imposing schedule, and of course I'm not going to be discussing every single line on this, but essentially what happens each year when we do our valuation is we look at the impact of different things on the pension plan and the funded status of the pension plan. So we have asset or investment gains and losses, which are we expect helpers on the long-term basis to earn 6.8% per year when they invest the assets. In some years we earn more than that. In some years we earn less than that. So each time we earn more or less than the expected amount, that generates gains and losses, which flow through to this schedule for the unfunded accrued liability. And similarly, there's gains and losses from demographic events. Are people retiring sooner than expected? Are salary increases different to what we expected? Are retirees living longer than expected? So all of these actual events compared to what our expectations were lead to gains and losses, which make up the unfunded accrued liability. And so each year we add a certain number of lines or rows to this schedule, reflecting the changes in the unfunded accrued liability. So so you can see this is just for the classic plan. So you can see at the bottom of the page here, this 4.487 million was the number we saw earlier for the unfunded accrued liability in the plan. Here I'm showing what the UAL contributions, a 5-year projection is for the pay down of the unfunded accrued liability. So even though the number of years for paying off will be a lot longer than 5 years, this is just a projection that we have in the report showing what the next 5 years of payments are expected to be. So the orange line at the bottom of the graph here are the PEPRA UAL payments. And as the unfunded accrued liability for the PEPRA plan is relatively small, the line, the payments, projected payments are down here. For the classic plan, which is the blue line, is the expected unfunded accrued liability payments for the classic plan, and the gray line is the total over the next 5 years. One of the schedules we have in the report is here we show a projection of the unfunded accrued liability and the payments over the next 20 years or so till it's fully paid off. Of course, each year we redo this schedule based on the experience of the plan. Some agencies consider paying off their unfunded accrued liability in a more rapid way. So as an example, we're showing that if you wanted to pay off your unfunded accrued liability over a 10-year period, you would have this flat $611,000 based on the current unfunded accrued liability. If you wanted to be super aggressive and wanted to pay it off over 5 years, you'd have an annual payment of over $1 million for the next 5 years. If you think about it like a mortgage, if you pay down your mortgage more rapidly, you end up saving interest over the period. So here down the bottom of this page, that if you did a 10-year payment schedule, we estimate you would end up saving $600 or close to $700,000. If you did it super aggressively over 5 years, you'd end up saving over $1.5 million interest over the period. Of course, the additional payments are significant. Some agencies have that in their budgets, other agencies don't. It's something that we put in the report for you as a consideration for you to think about making additional contributions to pay the unfunded accrued liability down more quickly. Also in the report, there's another table which shows essentially the same thing. This is again just for the classic plan. An estimate of the normal cost for the fiscal 25-26 year, and any ADPs, which stands for additional discretionary payments, which may be considered to pay off the unfunded accrued liability under different horizons. So we saw the 10-year and the 5-year in the table on the previous page. So these additional amounts would achieve that total contribution to make those to reach the target of paying off the unfunded accrued liability more rapidly. Okay, termination liabilities. So on occasion, agencies do terminate their contract with the CalPERS. In the event of a termination, we conduct a completely separate actual valuation of the liabilities. When we do this, we use a much lower discount rate than the ongoing discount rate. So for at the moment, CalPERS uses a discount rate of 6.8% on an ongoing basis. If the plan terminates, we would be using a much lower rate. And the reason for that is if a plan terminates, CalPERS assumes all of the future pension liabilities and is never able to reach out to the employer again in the future. to protect these benefits, this part of the portfolio is invested in very conservative treasury securities. And the yield on those securities is a lot less than the 6.8%. So we've given some sample discount rates of 3.06% and 5.06%. That's essentially as of the valuation date of 6/30/2023, the 20-year treasury was 4.06%. So 1% above, 1% below, just to give a sense of what the liabilities might be in the event of a termination. And as you can see here, the funded ratio under either of these things is a lot lower. The 49.4% or the 65.5% is a lot lower than the almost, I think, 80% that the plan is at on an ongoing basis. And similar numbers at the bottom of the page for the PEPRA members. So I've tried to capture this again in a graphic form. So the blue lines of each of these three groups is the liability on the discount rate basis, which is the ongoing 6.8%. And then the orange lines here are the liabilities measured on the lower, the 3.06% rate. And then the gray bar is the termination liability on the higher discount, the termination discount rate. That's the 5.06%. And this is the total of the termination liabilities if you add the two pieces together. And in terms of an unfunded termination liability, so if we subtract out the assets which were available as of June 30, 2023, you can see that the plan had this on an ongoing basis has just less than $5 million of unfunded liability. But in the event of a termination, there would be a significant amount of money owed to CalPERS in order to secure the benefits for the members going into the future. And this is just another presentation of the different termination basis, high and low, and the ongoing basis. So each of the columns represents the accrued liabilities. The blue section represents the assets, and the orange section of each of these bars represents the unfunded liability that would be paid on a termination basis if it was a lower discount rate used or a higher discount rate used. And as you can see, there's quite a significant difference between the ongoing accrued liability and the accrued liability on a termination basis. Just wanted to mention a tool which is available on the CalPERS website, and anybody in the public, and certainly your members of your board, can go onto the general CalPERS website, and they can use this tool to model, look at the pension plan in more detail, and and study the impact of different discount rates, or the impact of making additional discretionary payments, the impact of PEPRA on future costs. We've recently added a section for a Section 115 trust. A Section 115 trust is some agencies want to make additional contributions to fund their pension plan, but they don't want to lock it into the pension plan at CalPERS right away. So they set up a separate trust, which can be used in the future to make future contributions. And also there's a very useful budgeting tool which you can use on generate a 20, 30-year projection of costs through the use of the tool. So you would go to Helper's our website, and you would search for pension outlook. And this is what would happen when you looked up the San Mateo County Harbor District. You could search for your plan there directly, and it would pull up the information in the miscellaneous pool, and you have different graphs here. This graph here is what the employer contribution rate is expected to be over future years, and also the funded status of the plan over the future years. And then you can run different models to see if CalPERS earned, instead of 6.8%. Last year we earned 9.2%, which was above the 6.8%. So you could see what the impact of that is expected to be in the future, and it would generate these kind of graphs for you and let you do that kind of analysis. I'll be sending you this deck of slides so you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow the steps to easily log on to the pension outlook. You can set up your own account. There's no cost, and you can do a lot of actually very powerful analysis just by following the relatively easy steps in the modeling here. There's another. This graph also again shows the impact of what the expected contributions were, and the impact of the 9.2% earnings which we achieved in the fiscal year, which just ended June 30, 2024, a couple of months ago. That's pretty much a good overview of the pension plan and the financial condition. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have any questions by the commissioners?
No, it's just so much information.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I have a quick question. So that section 115 trust, Julian, is that like a side fund where you would have an account for to put money into, so that is that the same? Would that be the same thing? The section 115 trust, where it's basically specifically for paying down the UALs, right?
Right. Yes, it would be set up to either with CalPERS offers 115 trusts, and there are other independent organizations such as PARS, which allow you to set up a 115 trust and accumulate the money there, and then at your discretion you can use that money to make contributions to CalPERS. It's just an alternative vehicle. They may have some more flexibility in expected rates of return compared to what CalPERS has in its main trust.
So like how many agencies use a 115 trust within CalPERS?
Yeah, well, CalPERS own 115 trust is relatively new. I think it's only been around for a few years, so it's relatively small. I'm not sure how many agencies in general have accounts with PARS and other outside organizations, but it's a tool which is used pretty extensively.
Yeah. Discount rate?
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, we paid down our unfunded liabilities by $2 million. When I'm seeing totals up here, like 20+ million in some of those graphs, how does that relate when we paid it down 50% a couple of years ago, and now it looks like we've got a whole lot more?
Well, the couple years ago was 2017, so it was a few more years than a couple years ago when the interest rates were a little different then too. But Tom's right. I mean, we made a concerted effort to pay down 50% of that. And I mean, so anyway,
It's a good thing we did.
Yeah,
Right.
but
so-
that's why the 115 trust may not be, or some kind of side fund may not be a bad idea. I don't know. We haven't even talked, there's a lot to think about, but anyway, in response to Tom's question.
Right. So yes, no, so certainly over the those 7 years since then, a lot has happened at CalPERS. We've the investment earnings have been up and down. There were some years where we had pretty ugly returns, but but most of the returns are following the gyrations of the stock market and the other the bond markets and things like that. So that's it contributed to the unfunded accrued liability, as well as we did lower the discount rate over that period as well. And whenever we lower the discount rate, that implies an increase in our liabilities, as well. So those are I guess the two major factors, which is made the unfunded accrued liabilities somewhat volatile, and it's an ongoing dynamic issue because pension plans are complex financial arrangements which are subject to market forces, and that's what generates gains and losses and the unfunded accrued liability over time.
Any other questions?
No, thank you,
Julie,
Julie.
any questions? For this is your wheelhouse, so it's all absolutely clear to you.
Thank you, Julian.
Yeah, thank you. I
A
appreciate
lot of
it.
information.
Yeah, and then always feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions and things like that, and hopefully we can try using that pension outlook tool and reach out if you want a brief tutorial on that as well. Be happy to.
One last question, Julian. Do
Sure.
you expect another, I mean, given this interest rate environment now, do you think the 6.8% is going to be stable, or do you think that's going to change in the next year?
Well, we're actually embarking right now on our experience study and asset liability management review. So that's a 4-year cycle where there's a complete review of our assumptions on the actuarial side and the investment office as well on what kind of portfolio risk appetite the board is interested in having. And what will emerge at the end of that is whether there'll be any need to change the 6.8% discount rate and move it up or move it down, will just depend on that analysis and what risk appetite the board is willing to adopt. So it's at this point it's hard to say what if it's going to move or in what direction. But
Thank you.
Commissioner Slater Carter has a question.
I have a quick question, and that is, since this is retirement, one of the elements I know you look at is anticipated longevity. Do you also look at medical costs?
Well, no, as you say, what we were talking about this morning was just the pension liabilities. No, I'm not sure if you have any post-retirement medical benefits for employees or not.
Well, I realize that's OPEB, but isn't the cost of living, including medical costs, part of a pension liability?
No, our pension liabilities
Okay.
that you see here are just the monthly pensions that
Gotcha.
retirees get. When they retire from CalPERS, it's completely separate from any medical OPEB benefits.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Thank you.
no problem.
Julie, thanks for bringing Julian in.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
Julian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very detailed.
Thank you, and look forward to speaking with you again in the future. Take care. for now.
Thanks, Julian.
Thanks. Bye.
Item G2 on the agenda is the Oyster Point Marina Joint Liaison Standing Committee, August 28th, 2024 report. That was attended by Commissioners Chang Karali and Zemke. Is there a report? Did you like to summarize?
Yes, let me just summarize the report. Commissioner Chankrali and I were accompanied with our general manager, Mr. Pruitt, and met in South San Francisco with the members of the corresponding members of the committee for South San Francisco were Commissioner Eddie Flores and the current Mayor James Coleman. We were accompanied by Sharon Reynolds, the city manager, and also numerous members of her staff, which also have involvement on what's going on at Oyster Point. I thought it was a very good meeting. Obviously, a very good relationship ongoing good relationship with the city of South San Francisco. Some of the highlights included, we talked in terms of dates that are set forth in the existing 2018 agreement that we have with the city of South San Francisco, one of those being the replacement of docks 12, 13, and 14, which called for the replacement by, I believe, the end of this year or next year, which the current funding for which is not available. And as explained, I think earlier, the staff of the Harbor District is in the process of doing a life extension project for those docks and which is proceeding very well. The district is also, as you know, proceeding with the project to fix the docks 1 through 6, the entrance ramps there, and that project has not started yet, but I think is expected to start later this year.
Yes, and actually this month.
This month, okay.
Contracts being awarded and the contractor starting to mobilize.
Right. So that will be proceeding. The South San Francisco has been continuing to do work that's been funded by the developers out there. They're in phase 2, which is doing trail restoration and improvement work on the southern side of Oyster Point itself. That work is progressing very well. It does include a large dog park, which is something new, which the city, I think, will be managing that.
Yes.
After the meeting, I think Jim has shared with us the number of things that we're looking at as potentially improving Oyster Point Marina, one being adding fuel, dry boat storage, and a new bait shop, which could really improve the amenities out there.
Our revenues
And
too.
our revenue.
So
So, yeah, well, that's doing that.
we're going to do a financial analysis first before we move forward.
Right, right. So that's encouraging. And so I think it was a very positive meeting. Jim will be continuing his efforts to meet with Sharon and the staff of South San Francisco to update the agreements that we have, the 2018 agreement, which we would like to update the dates in that, and then also include what's left of the 2011 agreement and roll into one new agreement ultimately.
Yeah, so they're working on
And they are working on
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, item G4 is the Ocean Science Center Ad Hoc Committee Report.
G3.
Oh, this G3. That's what I was open to. Okay. Search and Rescue Ad Hoc Committee Report. So basically, this details a lot of the information. We've been sending letters to various groups and organizations trying to solicit money. We sent letters to Half Moon Bay City Council saying, you know, we'd really like to get some of these transient occupancy taxes from the hotel that's up here. Half Moon Bay, which I disagree, doesn't see a reason or the wherewithal to be able to spare funds towards the ocean rescue program. We're still working with the sheriff's department. We've got a meeting coming up shortly. We're looking at possibly 172 funds. But this just details how the committee has been searching for funds. Any questions?
Well, we're also looking to see what that potential cost might be if they were, if some of the crews were turned into sworn, or how we were even gonna do that. And it's not like we're going to do that, it's just that we were looking into the cost just to see what all of the options are.
All right.
Because as we saw just at on the CalPERS, in the CalPERS presentation, there's a pretty big difference between miscellaneous, which all of our employees are, versus safety.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll move on to item G4, Richmond Science Center Ad Hoc Committee Report. Commissioner Slater Carter and Commissioner Domerat.
So on the 17th of August, our committee continued to meet in the development of our Ocean Science Center concept. The purpose of that meeting was to start developing a table of various agencies that we will be interested in contacting and communicating with to assist us in the development of this concept.
Page 232.
Yeah, page 232 in your books. So
Actually, it's, yeah.
there it is. Yeah. So what was developed was that chart that you see, and it's also on that board in case you can't find it real quick. You could look on the board that's still in the room of what we considered, and this, I know, we're not limited by this. We're going to ask for more input in terms of if we missed any others, but we put together a list of federal, state, county, local, nonprofit, and other groups and organizations that we will be in now in the future reaching out. So an example for federal is U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, NOAA, Fish and Wildlife, National Marine Sanctuaries, all these groups that we'd like to get their input on what they would like to see, would they like to participate, how they would participate, so forth. So that's where we are now. The next step, and I had a very brief meeting this morning with the team here. One of the next steps we're considering is putting together a survey. And this survey would be sent to all of these groups to kind of get their feeling. I think that would be kind of the quickest way to get a feeling for what these organizations would like to see us do or not do. And there's different ways we can do that. There's various companies that do surveys. I'm most familiar with one called, and I'm not endorsing it, but it was like SurveyMonkey, where they do a lot of analysis of the data. So this is kind of the concept. We're thinking about going this direction rather than trying to set up, at least at this point, a workshop with all of these agencies. I don't know how many would participate, but I think we can get more input from a survey to do things. And then in the future, we can see if we're going to put together a workshop. In order to get to that survey, the most critical part is the questions. So I think that's something to think about between now and in another 2 weeks. We're going to hold another meeting. What kind of questions we would ask to get the most benefit out of a survey. So that's where we are right now. Any questions?
I have a comment. And I've been looking at the ABAG anticipated population increase for San Mateo County. And I will just say I think it's a critical mission in the Harbor District. San Mateo County of an increase in population of 150,000 over the next 25 or fewer years. 150,000, yeah. And it was mind-boggling to me to read that statistic, but as people get more and more crowded into the neighborhoods and apartment buildings over the hill, they're going to be looking for recreation opportunities and experiential opportunities. So I think this is a perfect time to be working on this so we get it established. It's always been busy here, and I can only imagine the traffic in 25 years on a nice sunny day. So there will be, probably they'll have mass transit and so on. So we need to be thinking about that as well. But the number of people from San Mateo County that already come over here and from other counties and other states, I think this is going to be an important addition here.
Another piece of information just to provide, I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more detail later, is we're also looking at the financial side of how to fund these things. And we started looking at a potential nonprofit 501c3 type of organization. I believe we'll have a little report on that towards the end. I think it's the last presentation. So thank you.
All right.
Great
Moving on
progress.
to item G5, California Division of Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange. Grant financial assistance for demolition of abandoned vessels, marine debris, and vessel turn-in program. This would be Mr. Moran's presentation.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a motion to adopt resolution number 24-18 to authorize acceptance and execution of a California Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange Grant for $150,000 and authorize the general manager to expend DBW SAVE grant monies for removal of abandoned vessels at Oyster Point and Pillar Point Harbor. The district was informed of the successful grant application for $150,000 to be used for removal of abandoned watercraft and debris, also accepting aged vehicles turned in by owners that no longer have means to properly care for the vessels. This program ensures vessels in poor condition that are abandoned do not become a hazard to navigation and/or become a threat to the environment. In accordance with the program, the district will obtain 3 quotes for the vessels to be removed, pay for the removal, then be reimbursed by DBW. The district has participated in this program for many years and due largely to the hard work of our staff, Kenyip, Chang, and at Pillar Point Harbor, Chris Tibby, the harbor master, and at Oyster Point Marina, the harbor master, James Smith, who successfully put together all of these grant applications that make the district successful in being able to clean up these dilapidated vessels that again end up being a danger to our marinas and the environment. So the board will approve this resolution and we'll be able to again be able to take advantage of this $150,000.
Make a motion. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2418 to authorize acceptance and execution of the California Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange Grant for $150,000 and authorize the general manager to expend DBW SAVE grant monies for removal of abandoned vessels at Oyster Point Marina and Pillow Point Harbor.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I guess one comment I'll make too. This is great. I really do appreciate the staff moving forward with this. And this maybe relates a little bit back to Oyster Point. The city of South San Francisco did adopt a mooring ordinance recently to address mooring out. And this affects Oyster Cove. And I did take a walk over there about a week or two ago, and I counted about a dozen boats, not all of them floating. There were a couple that have sunk already, but the rest of them didn't look in terribly good shape. But I think at some point, they may be coming our direction too, so.
We are already working with
Yeah.
South San Francisco and the abandoned and derelict vessels that are at anchor and on the bottom. And those vessels are part of or can be part of the SAVE program if funding's available and if they bring them to us.
Yeah.
So we're working with them when we supported their new mooring ordinances.
Yeah.
Some of those boats happen to be boats that were in Oyster Cove that moved over to Oyster Point decided they didn't want to pay their slip fees anymore or other issues and decided to leave Oyster Point, and they found it outside the harbor again. So rotating boats back and forth, but we are working with the city of South San Francisco under the SAFE program to dispose of boats. We've already done 2 so far that were recreational vessels that were burned to the water line, basically, that we recovered and disposed of.
Is it possible for the South San Francisco to apply for their own SAFE grant?
We looked into it and did not qualify.
As their city?
Commissioner Domerat?
150,000, first of all, very much appreciate the team going for that. 150,000 doesn't seem like it'll go a very long way.
No.
So anyway, and especially when I think of the outer harbor at Pillar Point, and we have an abandoned vessel there that many people talked about for a lot of years. Are there any other grant opportunities? And maybe we have grant writers, I mean, maybe they can research and kind of go further and look at other funding, maybe specifically for some of these things. That'd be just more of a recommendation than a question, because I think we're gonna leave a lot more money.
There are specific grants for clearing waterways and getting rid of abandoned and sunken vessels in the waterways. But they're more geared to the delta and the rivers than they are the coast. So we did apply for one for raise and dispose of the Caleb, but because it's on the coast, we did not qualify. There's other funding opportunities through the Marine Sanctuary to raise and dispose of boats inside the sanctuary, but the inner harbor or the harbor itself is excluded from the sanctuary. So we didn't qualify for those. But we continue to look for different grants and apply for them when they come up.
Good, thank you.
All right, got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
President Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke, Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to item G7 on the agenda, formation of a nonprofit public benefit corporation for ocean science education and research. General Manager Pruitt will be delivering this report.
Good afternoon or good morning. Several times during previous board meetings and at the Marine Science Center Ad Hoc Committee, we discussed or talked about the possibilities of forming a nonprofit public benefit corporation. And the board asked for some information on, one, is it possible, and what are the steps to form those corporations? And the bottom line up front is that a nonprofit public benefit corporation can be formed to support the Marine Science Center under education. And it can also fall under, if done right, under the 501c3. So donations would be tax. You can write them off on your taxes or tax deductible. The first step on forming one of these organizations, it has to be done for charitable purposes. And those purposes include relief of poverty, advancement of education or religion, promotion of health, government or municipal purposes, and other purpose beneficial to the community, which this would clearly fall under educational. And so that we'd be able to meet that test. And the same thing with, is it going to be tax exempt? We could also meet that because it's educational. To be tax exempt, it has to be charitable, educational, religious, scientific, literary, or preventing cruelty to children and animals. So we do believe it's possible to have a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization. The formation is just like any other setup where you have to determine the corporate name. You have to select an incorporator, so somebody who would sign the initial paperwork and receive service of process. We'd have to draft the articles of incorporation. We'd have to draft the bylaws and then take initial board action, and that to formally designate the president, the financial officer, and the secretary of the organization, and to adopt the bylaws. And one of the most important things is adopting conflict of interest policies. Then we just go through the statement of information to the Secretary of State and just follow that process. Then we do an EIN, apply for an EIN number. We'd register with the Attorney General's charitable trusts, file the application for tax exemption with the Internal Revenue Service, and then file an application of tax exemption with the California Franchise Tax Board. One issue that pops up is it applicable to the Public Records Act? Is it applicable to other federal acts, Political Reform Act? And one of those deciding factors is who's going to be on the board. If one of the commissioners wants to serve on the board and be a voting member of the board, these laws will clearly be applicable. Public Records Act and everything else. Board member can serve on the board as an advisor and not a voting member. And that would bring you outside some of these laws and regulations of the Public Records Act. I'm not too concerned with the Public Records Act because I think everything that the nonprofit's going to be doing is going to be out in the open anyway, and
Could be.
beneficial to the public. And being subject to the PRA is, I don't think, is a negative thing at that point.
Well, so Jim.
One thing we look at is definitely work with the unions to make sure we have no conflicts with labor agreements between OE3 and the Teamsters. And then start talking about what the district can and can't do in support of the organization, what the revenue sources of this organization will be. Will funding come from this board to that organization? How private donations will be collected? And then also look at alternative funding sources if we deem it necessary, and then also facilities. And one of the ideas is for the facilities in the new retail center is to actually have one of those spaces dedicated to the Marine Science Center and outreach. So that I think after looking at all this, considering all this, it's a great idea to form this. We can also expand it and not necessarily restrict it to the Ocean Science Center and education. We can expand it into ocean safety. And in the future, like the Lighted Boat Festival that we're planning this year and that they've done several years previous, this nonprofit could take that program over and run the Lighted Boat Festival or other festivals that we can look at it and bringing more people down to the coast to learn about the coast and the marine environment. Would have been great to have the Marine Science Center there when Pillar of the Whale was in the harbor to get the information out, and hopefully we'll be ready for that next time. Our Science Center.
So that's pillar if it's male and pilar if it's female.
Correct.
Pilar.
So,
So I have a
and if
question.
another whale came in, it was going to be point.
Next time.
Tom,
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Jim, so I didn't hear you mention this about this paragraph regarding the Brown Act.
Yes.
So, I mean, I almost think that we need to have that.
And we can.
The Brown, because I've heard about in the past with this harbor district, and it's not with any nonprofit board, but just talking and just, informally, and could have actually been, with a former board member or board members, and could have been a serial meeting under the Brown Act. And because anyway, I just think we need to have as many safeguards as possible
I agree with
for
you.
this.
Oh, absolutely. The public has a right to know about what happens to its money that, through special districts.
Well,
It's
but that's
also
not
an
going to be-
important part of nonprofits.
Yeah.
Because I have seen some nonprofits that spend 95% of their donation monies on upper level staff. And others that spend 100% on the mission. So we need to have people understand or be willing to make public all of those kinds of details if we're going to be asking for money.
I think this fits in extremely well with the future of our Ocean Science Center and research, because if you look at that, the 501c3 codes for education, scientific, public safety, so all the things we talked about, and then Jim was mentioning the activities group, you know, doing this, and all the activity stuff is to bring people down and learn about the harbor, and we will, and all the activities we do at the harbor will always have that educational component. So I think it's a great way to do that. I think there's a lot of kind of private, you know, philanthropic groups out there would be more than willing to kind of contribute, you know? And so I think it's a good thing to take to the next step wherever we got to go.
I just want to thank the staff for working to help put this together, and also the board and George and Catherine in particular. We have come such a long way as a board and an organization. It's like a dream come true that we're even able to talk about something like this today, because our governance is in order. We're all very excited about looking forward in the new directions that we're headed. And so I just want to thank everyone for getting this endeavor off the ground, because over the last, since 2015, since I've been on this board, we've come a very long way. And the fact that we can do this today is a testament to all the work that everyone's done. So thank you.
And this report could be considered a little premature to the board, but I wanted to get the information.
I think it's really
as soon as
important.
possible.
Yeah.
It's just informational to see to answer the basic question, is it possible?
Yeah.
And what those steps would be. Our next step, I plan on continuing to work on this and move it forward. My goal today was to want to make it public with the board that we're looking into it as requested, and that we're considering moving forward, and that I will be presenting more information on this to the board in the near future.
So just a suggestion, you know, we went and we visited with the Marine Science Institute of Redwood City. They are a 501c3. We have some 501c3s in the area that you know, focus on ocean things, Sea Huggers, others. It'd be just a suggestion. Maybe we talk to some of these groups and see maybe how they formulated and whatever. But
I think it's in terms of the structure, because they're like a pure nonprofit. I think that if you look at some of the friends groups tied to a public agency,
Right.
like the Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo, which I was the board president of the friends group many, many years ago, that kind of structure would be important to look at as well.
I've set up one in the past.
Okay, yeah, so that's good. But I think, unlike what I think we should do here, like the Junior Museum and Zoo, is not have to, I don't think they looked at the Brown Act stuff, because it was, anyway, I'm just trying to understand what the structure would look like, because it would still be tied probably more closely to a public agency than the Junior Museum and Zoo would be. But I really think that the open government laws should be applicable to this, right, at least at the beginning. And I think it should be in general,
Likely
but
apply.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think there's
I'm
that.
afraid of it.
I also,
Yeah.
what is the anticipated timeline are we looking? What is our anticipated timeline?
In terms of forming this?
In terms of just getting a 501c3 to the point where it can accept money?
Hope is to have everything up and running for 2025.
Because I think there are lots of opportunities out there. And so it's like the good old chicken and egg, you know?
Yeah, which came first?
Which
comes first?
comes first? And in my business experience, it's always money. first the idea and then the money, and then you can move on from there, but, I've forgotten who said it, probably, Plato or something, it takes money to make money. And to have an organization, so.
Right.
I just have one final comment. When I read this document and I look at the footnotes, that's the way lawyers write that. So I would like to thank, Jim with his legal expertise and our attorneys, and I'm sure helped them with this stuff too. So I really appreciate it.
No,
I don't write footnotes like that.
RWG did 99.9% of the
Thank
writing.
There you
you,
go.
Tricia.
Good job.
I see, the board is highly supportive of this and we look forward to staff continuing to follow up. Okay, item G8 on our agenda is the Lighted Boat Festival update.
And Commissioner Domrat's gonna.
Are you in charge of this, George?
It's on.
It's on.
It is on, and we've been working feverishly in getting this thing going to make it a fun event for all. I think projections, last year we had over 1,000, and I think we're projecting at least double that, maybe more. And so we now do have 4 music events that we'll be attending. We put out an announcement for boats to sign up, for the thing already.
We have several people who've already signed up.
And have we settled on the chili cook-off? We're gonna do that, but we're still working on one.
Exactly.
So
I mean, I
chili-
know what a chili
I mean-
cook-off is, yeah.
So staff and the public are very excited about the Light Boat Festival this year. Last year, we put it on because it's always been a tradition of the Harbor District to put on a Lighted Boat Festival. COVID kind of shut that down for a few years. So last year was my first Lighted Boat Festival at Blair Point
that's
Harbor.
probably right.
I was expecting a couple hundred people
No.
and we
Huge.
had a couple thousand people. And we had 2 food trucks and we had Fisher Flights cookies, and they sold out of everything.
Yeah.
And people were wanting more. So we decided what a great opportunity to bring people down to the waterfront, have educational booths, have more food trucks. Pelagic restaurant group will be open and ready to go. So will be Ocean Ciders. We're going to do a chili cook-off. Santa Cruz does a fantastic chili cook-off, but the permitting requirements in Santa Cruz County and the permitting requirements of San Mateo County, it reminds me of some of us being from Venus and others from Mars because they are not related at all. San Mateo County has a lot more requirements and is very, very strict on what the 10 by 10 tent has to look like, what it has to be, hand washing stations, everything. So we may be, as the host, sponsoring a lot of that for the chili cook-off contestants and bringing in the fire department and the health department. We have several people already interested in it, so we're working through all that. And then we're also looking, we got 3 separate estimates for drone shows in, so we're looking at those. We talked to the San Mateo County or San Mateo Firefighters Association, who did a chili cook-off
In August.
and drone show, and they
Yeah.
did a fantastic job. So we're kind of piggybacking off some of their ideas, working with the health department and others. And they also had a drone show, which was very popular. So with the drone show, the chili cook-off, the music, the educational booths, the food, we're really looking for, if not double or triple the amount of people coming in, because we'll also put a lot more advertising out and information out that we're doing it that night. So we're very, very excited about it. It will cost a few dollars, but it will also bring in a lot of people down to the harbor. We hope to involve the fishermen, hope to involve the fish buyers at the end of the pier, make it and work with Maverick Surf Company also, make it a whole day event for the entire harbor. So we're very excited about it.
So just a quick question, Jim, wasn't there something I heard that if we had like another person, another group a 501c3 that took it over, a lot of these permitting things may not be necessary. That wouldn't be us because we don't have that.
Well, is Coastside Fire gonna be involved with the chili cook-off? Do you know? I mean, because oh, so,
They have to permit us.
right. No, I know, but so I'm just saying, I'm just trying to piggyback on what George is saying, because the firefighters, what is it, IAFF 24, local 2400, right? They just had their chili cook-off in late August,
Yes.
right? And it's always a huge
The 25th.
success, yeah, which I had to miss that, but it's always a huge success, huge. And Menlo Fire won the People's Choice Award, right? And so, I mean, it's every year, but the point is if we can piggyback off of the Firefighters Association, that's why I'm asking about Coastside Fire though, Cal Fire's with a different fire, they're at 2881, not 2400, local 2400.
We're still
So-
working. We have to work with the local fire for a
Well, that's a
permitting
different
purpose and
union,
inspection,
union.
but we're also contacting the individuals in charge of the San Mateo chili cook-off
I
and
can help with that. if-
kind of piggybacking off and getting their ideas.
Yeah.
So this will be the first time we do a big chili cook-off following all the health department rules and permitting requirements that are required. It's not the
So a
first
lot
time
of-
chili cook-off's been done at the harbor,
No,
Yeah.
but under the new rules, it's the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah. so-
the old chili cook-offs,
There were some here.
there were some here. I participated and it just collapsed when the county put in these new rules that required huge expense on the part of the folks who were donating and cooking for this. And they just said, wait a minute, these tents are expensive, all these hand washing stations, all these screens, all the this, all the that.
They're still required even if you're a nonprofit.
Right.
As a
It's
nonprofit,
all
you
issue.
just, some of the fees are,
Some of the fees are waived.
but that's the nonprofit of each one of the participants,
Right.
not the sponsor.
And I think it's a good thing we're getting started on. I tend to agree with many of these health and safety requirements. With COVID and all the new diseases or reintroduced new diseases wandering around, you need to have hand washing and hand sanitation and all that stuff. But it does get expensive. And I think we should, George, the Pillar Point Marine Science Center and Marine Science and Education Center we should have a little booth. I'm willing to donate some money for getting some stuff printed. And we can put a big.
I think that's a great idea.
We can put a big jar there for donations.
I'm still waiting to hear from the Marine Science Institute to be part of this. And as you remember, when we went to visit them, they would bring over little tanks and things of
Yeah.
things that the kids could touch and feel. So set up next to them, we can have a little booth about talking to people about our ideas. By that time, maybe we can have a survey done and we'll get a better idea of what the public would like to see us do here.
Well,
So all these things can,
I see this as a kickoff for the new look for the harbor, for the new public. Not awareness, but the public recreational activities for the harbor that will help bring people to enjoy the ocean and
Sure.
learn about, I'd love to get some pictures for the booth.
Well, we can get the people who are doing the brown pelican migration with their instrumentation and some results of that. And we can do a lot of
We
this.
can get pictures of Pilar or Pillar,
Whichever.
whoever.
So what you received today is not really part of the public record. It's just a very preliminary draft of what we're looking at, scheduling and maps and stuff. This is not locked in by any means. It's kind of based on, I guess, other festivals we've had here and stuff like that. So.
You only have a
I'm-
copy and Tom and me.
I was gonna say, I didn't see that.
I
Well,
can send you a copy of everybody.
Yeah, I think so, because I'd like to get people's ideas of, how we're locating things and stuff like that too.
Well,
So-
thank you
Yeah.
to you and Tom and Jim for kicking this thing off. I
It's
think.
gonna be fun.
It's exciting.
I think we are an important part of the future of San Mateo County.
Hey, Jen.
All right, that's a good update on the Lighted Boat Festival. So now we're at item H on our agenda, future agenda items.
One thing I guess I just need to know, then I would not be here for our next regular scheduled
Yeah,
meeting,
me neither.
which I think.
Oh, good. There's several things we can put on the agenda. then.
No, you're not gonna be here either.
Oh, that's right. I'm not going to be here either, but can we Zoom?
Not-
No.
Not
Unless
a
You're going to put your location on the agenda.
But the majority of the board won't be
You won't be
present in the
here.
county.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, because I could put my location on, but the majority of the board's gone.
Correct.
Yeah.
So right now, as discussed during the consent, we took care of all the required financial approvals we needed to run through October. So the next regularly scheduled board members, cannot take place because we won't have a majority. So it'll be in November.
Well, we
Future
need-
agenda items.
We need a special meeting for spending for October, or are we
Took
okay?
care of
We
that.
took care of
today's-
that today
All right.
in the consent.
Perfect.
Okay. I would like to have, I received a letter that Melanie forwarded from John the woodcarver.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like, as a future agenda item soon, to add local artists, to revamp and rename our food truck ordinance and make it more inclusive for local, not, and we have to define local. As west, my supposition would be south of Pacifica, west of Highway 35, and including
Down to
Pescadero. But I would like to allow local artists to have the ability to park their trucks here, say they're coming for the weekend, park their trucks here, not stay in them, but we can discuss that. To add local artists to our allowed mobile units. I think, John, the woodcarver, I'm sorry, he's been here as long as I can remember, and he was always part of the character and ambiance of the harbor. And I was sad when I saw him gone.
Is he gone? I mean, he had a permit. I just don't understand. So, I mean, along with your thing, which I agree with, it's really a permitting issue too.
That's
Right,
right, and
so-
I think that's what we need to do.
For
is-
future agenda. We don't, I know you
We
can't
can
talk
talk about it
about
in
that, but I'm
future
talking
agenda
about the
item.
future agenda.
Right.
item.
Right,
I'm working with John to solve his
Okay.
individual issues.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
local artists already have the authority, if they work with the harbor master, to park their trucks overnight. As long as they don't reside in them.
exactly.
So that's, I don't know exactly what you want to get briefed on or the agenda item would cover, because it's already happening.
Well, let's just have a report on it then, as usual.
Okay.
As I have learned since in a year and a half on this board, going on 2 years, you're awesome. You do manage to cover things efficiently and quickly, and thank you for working on that, because John the woodcarver has been an incredible, important part of showing, what some people would consider waste and firewood, and he turns them into amazing
Art pieces.
art pieces related to the ocean.
Again, well, he has individual circumstances that I can
But we
consider,
can't talk
and
about.
that will take care of that. And
Thank
then
you.
we'll
Well,
bring
that's-
back what our policy is on parking in a future agenda item.
Yeah, because I'd love to get more artists. We have Montero was founded as an artist community, actually. And all the way down through Pescadero, we have some amazing artists, and if they could just do a pop-up on a weekend at the harbor, that would be a wonderful thing.
Hearing any future agenda items, I'm going to turn the floor over to Commissioner Chang Corrali for an adjournment.
Yes, so I don't know if you've heard, but I was Chief Dave Betancourt, who was the former Half Moon Bay Fire Chief and a legendary fisher in the harbor passed away. He's the father of Jeff Betancourt and Lisa Damrosch. So there was a service for him, a memorial service or celebration of life for him this past weekend, and I was just so honored to be there and hear the stories from long time Half Moon Bay residents, former firefighters who were with him, and even current volunteer firefighters who were there, who all came in, and just, it was the old guard of Half Moon Bay, and it was really beautiful. So I wanted to adjourn the meeting in Chief Betancourt's honor today.
Very good.
Right. I don't think that needs a motion. So,
I need a second.
I'll second that.
all right.
So do we have to do a roll call? I have to do a roll call.
Do a roll call, please.
Sure.
President Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Very good.
This is what I think we should do.